Hello, welcome back to Planet Sail. I'm in Dusseldorf and it's showtime at the world's biggest marine sports show. Among the special guests here at the Dusseldorf Boat Show on the opening weekend was the America's Cup. And with that came Martin Fischer, Luna Rossa's designer. So I took that chance to have a catch up with him to find out what the latest is. Do you think everybody feels more comfortable now? I'm thinking just broadly across all the teams, really, more comfortable that actually they got over this first hurdle, that the boats actually work, or is this just the first bit and now we've got a really steep hill to climb?
No. I think it was not. Frankly speaking, I don't think it was really a hurdle. We were very sure that the boats would work because before we finished the rules, together with Team New Zealand, we had already a simplified version of the boat in the simulator that I described before, and from that we were very confident that the boat would work. So we were not really afraid that the concept would fail.
And so now we see the boats in the water. You were talking earlier on about the two key differences, mainly the two camps that the four boats fall into. Is there a risk that actually, because this is the first cycle of the Cup with a very, very radical new design, there's a danger that we might end up in a situation like we did in 2013 when the AC-72s first arrived, where there's a huge mismatch between the boats?
It could be, of course. I don't hope so. And I think there's a fair chance that the racing will be pretty close because we have only 4 teams, but all the 4 teams are very high level and they're putting big effort into it. With the AC-72s, it was slightly different. There were very big differences in budget at that time, but this time all the teams really go for it, and therefore I think there's a very good chance that the racing will be close.
And I suppose one of the big differences between these boats and the 72s is that the 72s suddenly leapt onto foils, or at least one boat suddenly leapt onto foils.
Yeah, it was not foreseen, and then the others had to catch up. Whereas here it was foreseen right from the beginning to have foils, and at least what we see so far, there's not a solution now on the boats that is radically different from what was expected.
You talked about earlier on, just briefly, about the fundamental differences in the hull shapes, and that the British and the Americans are beamy boats. The implication is they have high wetter surface areas and could be quite draggy, and your boat and the Kiwi boat is a more slender form. How much will that now you've seen it in action, how much will that actually play out? Or will all of these boats get onto their foils so quickly that the hulls won't be relevant anymore?
Actually, most of the time the boats will foil. That's the goal, at least, and I think we all will succeed in doing so. But the hulls are relevant, they're very relevant, but we are putting big efforts into optimizing the aerodynamics of the hull. So the shape differences that I mentioned before are very much related to aerodynamics and not so much to hydrodynamics.
Oh, really?
So the hull shape is the aerodynamic aspects of the hull shape are a big point for us, a very important point.
That's interesting, because a lot of the speculation before we actually saw the boats in their physical being was that the transition between displacement sailing and foiling was going to be a huge thing, and no one quite knew where that was going to happen.
Yes, for sure. That's also a very important aspect, of course. And the hull development that we did, and all the other teams as well, was of course focusing on 2 points. Obviously, on at least 2 points on the takeoff behavior, and once the boat is flying, on the aerodynamics. So these 2 points were crucial in the hull development.
Do you think that could still turn out to be a bit of a game changer?
The hull shape, you mean?
Well, the point at which a boat takes off.
Yes, that's a big question. We're asking ourselves, what is the best takeoff speed? You can choose a very low takeoff speed, but that requires very big foils. That has a disadvantage once you are foiling. And you can also go for a higher takeoff speed that would allow us to go for smaller foils, but then the takeoff becomes more difficult. So it's a trade-off between the two, and we know after Cagliari better what is the right decision, because this is obviously something we are testing on the simulator. We're racing basically different boats against each other, but the final answer will be given in racing.
And part of that dilemma is going to be about wind limits, isn't it? You
Yes.
mentioned those earlier on, and wind limits have been very much in the news recently with a bit of disagreement going
Yes,
on. First question is, are you any further to a resolution yet?
Well, we expressed our opinion, and now the arbitration panel has taken over. So the arbitration panel is now trying to find to guide us towards an agreement between the defender and the challenger. And if that is not possible, then the arbitration panel will take a decision, and we can expect that decision probably around end of March, something like that. So soon we will know. But at the moment, we are trying to find an agreement.
How hard is that as a designer with such a complex boat that's so dependent on tiny increments in wind speed to design a boat when you're not actually sure what the race conditions will be?
It is actually the value we do not agree upon at the moment is the upper wind speed limit, and the probability to have such a high wind speed is relatively low. So this is not something that will happen permanently. That's a relatively rare event. We have looked at probability distributions of wind speed, and that can happen, but it's not extremely likely to happen. That so we don't design a boat for 24 knots of wind speed. That's an aspect. It has to survive in those conditions, but it is not designed for.
Two final questions. One is, when I know it's still looking ahead and we've yet to see this generation of boats race against each other, but when we see the second boats, how different do you think they might be?
That's a very difficult question, and I cannot say a lot about that, because obviously I cannot reveal what we are doing there, and I don't know what the others are doing. So it would be speculation, and I better say nothing.
I like speculation. And final question: we've seen the Kiwis capsize in Hauraki Gulf during testing. Has your team capsized yet?
No, not yet. No. And well, I hope we can avoid it. But let's say it will happen one day for sure. In my opinion, all the teams will capsize sooner or later. That's something that happens, and it's not, as you saw, it was not a big drama. They had the boat back up in 3.5 minutes and then continued sailing. So there was no damage and everything was okay.
So you don't think that'll be part of the training process for the team?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. You try to avoid a capsize, obviously, because you never know what happens. People can fall down, and you don't want to get in such a situation on purpose. But it's not a catastrophe if it happens.
Okay.
It's not like with the AC-72, for instance. There it was a disaster when they capsized. A huge disaster even. This is not the case here.
Well, it's been spectacular to watch so far, and I think there's plenty more to come. Martin Fischer, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.